Well, today's a good day because I'm sitting with a friend of mine, and we've been friends for a while, and we're actually in our house. So if there's a little bit of like external noise going on, it's all our kids and grandkids running around outside. So they're having a lot of fun, and we're in here doing a podcast and having a chat. So the guy that I'm referring to, Mr. Isaac Borquay, better known as Mr. Guvna B.
Hello.
One of the most talented rappers I know, and one of the most amazing people I know as well. So would you give it up for Mr. Guvna B, everybody?
Thank you, man. Good to be here.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. I had to drive into the centre of Brighton earlier, and I saw your daughter, Ruby. I gave her a lift, and she asked me, when did we actually first meet you? And I couldn't remember. Can you? Because I know it's been, definitely over 5 years.
Yeah, I think, because I was thinking about it today when we connected over the
Hands Are Made for Working was the first one.
And we co-wrote a few songs, didn't we?
Yeah.
And that was in the little studio that I had in the house. And that, I think that was probably the first time. Oh, here's Anna. Sorry, we've got an interruption already.
Oh, here she is. Hello.
It's a very important podcast. Right. And that was great fun because you had Jimmy in the studio. We were working on a few lyrics and melodies, weren't we? And that's probably when you first hung out with my kids anyway.
Yeah, that was a good time. Studio was great. I think some of the features on that album, like Sam Henshaw, came down as well. But also to get a bit of a peek into how you write songs definitely improved what we did, because I've always seen it as rap it's just lyrics and flows, but then approaching that from a songwriting perspective with your expertise, that was definitely the album that kind of, people respected me as a songwriter, not just a rapper.
I don't know about that, but I mean, you know more about this than I do, but like say the Jay-Z vibe, he was definitely mixing those melodies, wasn't he? Like the sort of big choruses, what you'd call like sort of big pop choruses.
Yeah.
And then the rap thing. And that I've always liked that.
He was quite ahead of the curve actually with that. I think his first breakthrough single, one of them, Hard Knock Life, he had that, it's a hard knock life for us. And whoever hears that chorus, they're straight in.
Yeah.
But then he had really technical rap verses. Just really clever in the way he approached music and made it, I don't know, just open to everyone, no matter what genre you're into.
Would he have been an influence on you when you were younger, or who are the guys that would have you'd been listening to when you were sort of 12?
He was very eclectic, because I grew up in a house that was playing a lot of gospel music, a lot of Motown, so my parents would play loads of like Kurt Franklin, Mary Mary, but then also Lionel Richie, Luther Vandross. And then when I got to 12, there was a rapper called Kano that lived in my area.
Wow.
And I saw him on MTV Bass rapping and thought, that's like a UK guy.
Yeah.
I could do that. And that's what really piqued my interest. But around that time, Jay-Z, Nas, a bit of Kanye West, Ludacris, a lot of Americans, until I realised, British people can rap too.
Yeah. Look, we're getting way too ahead because I haven't even really introduced you properly yet and told all these amazing listeners who you are and how much, what you've done. But you've had 2 Mobo Awards.
3 now.
3?
Yeah, 1 last year.
Unbelievable. Extra points for that. 3 Urban Music Awards.
Yep.
About 10 records you made now?
Yeah.
Is this number 10 or?
One, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Only 2 of them are good though.
You got your own clothing brand?
Yeah, Hello Mate.
Hello Mate, I've got a pair of Hello Mate socks actually.
You have?
Which I do wear with pride on particular occasions. My favourite thing is you're a football pundit every now and again for Sky TV.
Yep.
Which, when I see you up there on telly, I'm a proud brother.
It's a bit random, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant though, but of course it's linked to you being a massive West Ham United fan. Yeah. So how did all that come about? And then we'll talk about some music in a minute.
Yeah, grew up a West Ham fan. My mate used to play for the youth team, so I'd go along with him. Back then they did tickets, like they had this thing called Kids for a Quid, so it's quite easy to go. And then since then, I've just been really vocal about my support. And someone from Sky Sports, one of their head producers, followed me on Twitter and said, would you like to come on and chat about West Ham? So I went on and talked about, you know, players that I'd love for us to get in a transfer window. Did quite well, and then they kept inviting me on, and then gave me a show to be on continuously, one called Good Morning Transfers. So every August and January, I'm on a transfer show. If people saw our text messages, it'd be quite funny because we're always going back and forth about Brighton and West Ham.
I know.
Yeah, I love footy.
I know, and I came to West Ham, didn't I, on the Brighton game.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Didn't go too well that day.
Was that draw, that game?
No,
or did you beat us?
Brighton whipped it, didn't they?
Mate, we've got a weird thing again. You know, we've not beaten them in the Premier League in about, I don't think, ever.
It's so strange.
Which is strange. Yeah.
But Declan Rice is going, though, isn't he? Do you think?
Looks like it, but my dream is that he thinks, do you know what?
Yeah.
I love this club. I'll stay another year. But it's unlikely. I think he's off.
Oh, have I ever told you my famous West Ham United story?
No.
I was actually a West Ham fan when I was like a kid. Because I lived in sort of northeast London, and this guy used to take me to see West Ham on the bus. And semi-final of the FA Cup, I reckon 1980, right? I was probably 10. Trevor Brooking playing, you know, all that era. And West Ham got a penalty in the 89th minute. Ray Stewart comes up, takes the penalty. And I was in the crowd behind the goal, and the whole crowd surged forward.
Mate.
This is the original West Ham ground.
Yeah.
And a policeman pulled me out and stood me at the side of the goal on the pitch. I know.
What, because you were getting crushed?
Yeah, I was getting crushed. And anyway, the penalty went in, and I was actually on the pitch.
Oh my days!
So amazing, isn't it?
If that happened today, it'd be on Match of the Day.
I was forever. Yeah, I'd have my own Instagram account. I'd be going viral now. The kid at the side of it.
But my question is to you: how can you experience something like that and not still be a West Ham fan?
It's a really good question, because I moved away. I don't know. I'm geographical. Oh, amazing, isn't it? So anyway, going back to like music, right? Because that's who you are, really. It's in your blood, isn't it? You were talking about UK rap stuff, and then what do you reckon the difference is between the UK scene and the American scene? Because there's so many brilliant things about both, right?
Yeah, I think they're both an expression of what they see. So hip hop in America started off as a bit of a cultural movement. It was music of expression, music of power. Started in the streets with like beatbox culture and dance. It was like a whole, this is us, this is who we are. And I think the UK maybe in the early years tried to emulate that, but they didn't have the same lived experience.
Yeah.
But when I was going through kind of secondary school, it's like 2010 times, I started to see a lot of British rappers start talking about where they're from in their own style, using their own language and slang.
Yeah.
And that's when it felt like, from my perspective anyway, it started to build like a lot more of its own identity. And that's when it started to go massive, really. So then there's probably a lesson in that somewhere, where if you try and emulate and copy without having the authentic, you know, experience of what it is, it might not go as far as if you're just true to yourself and you talk about the things that are true to you. Yeah,
that's so interesting.
The accent's a big thing though.
Yeah,
because I don't know if there's a UK artist, rapper, that's really broken America, for example. There's been people that have done well, but I don't know if the accent is too different.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like a genre that wrapped up around that accent as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit like country music.
Yeah.
You know, if you sang country music songs in an East London accent, it would just be a bit weird, wouldn't it?
Cockney accent.
So, I know, but maybe that we should get onto that. Maybe that'd be a thing.
Try it, because it is interesting because it's different with pop, isn't it? Because obviously you got like Adele, Ed Sheeran, huge crossover. Sam Smith done well over there.
Yeah, Coldplay.
Yeah, certain genres, Coldplay. Yeah,
but there's a difference sonically though, isn't there? Because to me all that stuff like Chance the Rapper, Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, it's sonically more pop really.
Yeah.
And yet the UK stuff seems more, when I say lo-fi, I don't mean like less quality, it's just more grungy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's grimier, yeah. Or maybe we're just used to the American stuff, so that sound, I don't know, maybe resonates a bit more, because there are artists over here that have tried to go the mainstream route. The earliest I can remember from my era was Tiny Temper, with songs like Pass Out, where he tried to make it a bit more pop leaning. Yeah. And done quite well. But yeah, I do find it's grittier.
Yeah.
With a lot of artists over here.
Do you think everybody copies America? Like, do you think every genre? Because when you said that about the UK guys, it made me think about maybe a little bit more in my world, like writing songs for Sunday morning in church.
Yeah.
So many of those massive songs come out of America, out of Nashville. And it feels like for the last 15 years, we've all been trying to copy that. But the thing is, we're copying, you don't ever do it as well, do you?
Yeah. I don't know. I can only really talk about British hip hop and grime. And I know it definitely went through that stage. But I actually think when it comes to creativity and ideation, we actually don't have an issue just being true to ourselves, but maybe because America is just a huge machine. Yeah. If you know something works over there, you're probably quite enticed to try and see if you can have a go. Yeah. But I don't know, like with like Coldplay, for example, do you think that in their early days they were trying to emulate an American sound, or were they authentically them from the start?
Oh, wow.
Because for me, they just scream like we're British, and they're huge, aren't they? Yeah. Yeah,
I think you're right. But just the brilliant melodies.
Yeah, songwriting.
I think an amazing melody is the always opens doors globally, doesn't it? That always translates wherever. But yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Seeing what they've done. But tell us about your upbringing, because people would be really interested to know. Like, I know you're a London boy, but what was that like?
I loved it, to be honest. So my mum and dad came over to England from Ghana in their early 20s, had me and my younger brother. He's 6 years younger than me, and we grew up in an area called Custom House, which is in East London, on a council estate. And on our estate there were quite a lot of working class English people, but also quite a lot of first generation Brits. So people like me, who were the first person in their family to be born in England, but their parents are from Africa or the Caribbean or other parts of Europe. But in a weird way, because we were all different, that's like the thing that united us. Yeah. It's like everyone's different, and in a way that makes us all the same. And so I loved it. I know that, council estates, working class communities probably get a bad rep because of the poverty, which births other things like antisocial behaviour and violence and that kind of stuff. But it did feel like I was part of a family, and I didn't feel like I lacked anything, even though I was working class. Like, there was, thankfully, the bed to sleep in, food on the table. It wasn't actually until I was older, like early 20s, that I realised how much my parents had to sacrifice to make that happen. But when you're actually young and just living, going about your daily life, as long as I'm loved, then I got food on the table and bed to sleep, and I'm all right. Yeah. And when did you? What age were you when you thought, I'm into this thing called music? About 15, I used to battle rap in the playground as a joke, saying some stuff that you'd probably tell me off about. Not very nice things about people's mothers. But I was really good at it. And I started to build a bit of a name for myself in my local area. But then my youth leader at the church I was going to, he heard one of my songs on MySpace, and I was like effing and blinding. and he was like, "What are you doing? This is not you."
Yeah.
And he challenged me to write an album for my youth group, and there was about 80 people in my youth group. So I said, yeah, fine. Started writing about, exploring faith, more positive themes. Did a little album launch, and about 800 people turned up. And I guess that's when I realised, maybe God's doing something with this.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, so, you've grown up as a church kid. Your faith in God is central in your life. And you're now becoming a rapper. But of course, that whole genre is a little bit like rock and roll. Is like, it's rebellion, isn't it? That's sort of, and then when I think of the rap genres, I would think of sort of like it's an anger thing. It's against the machine, it's against the world.
Yeah.
But then you're almost sort of singing, talking about songs of hope. How does that work? How's that worked out for you?
I think it was something that I thought about a lot when I started. I felt like a bit of a loner because, from 12 years old, growing up on hip hop music, that's where I felt like I belonged. But the subject matter, I couldn't always relate to because I was trying to live a different life. And so the only person that I could think of that I could semi-relate to at the time was a guy that my youth leader told me about called Lecrae, who we both know.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. I see this. He's like a Christian. He's talking about his faith, but he also loves hip hop. And that was the only example that I had. So we talk about, copying and emulating.
Yeah.
That's who I was trying to emulate. But I think on reflection, that wasn't really me either. There's a way that I could have done it that was a bit more authentic. So from a foundation of faith, but talking about wider subject matters than Jesus, every knee shall bow, every tongue confess.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And there's some songs where it was, right that I spoke about that. But then I also probably could have spoken to other issues from a slightly different angle, So I could have spoke about violence, but just from a Christian standpoint,
Yeah.
And then it was the Kanye West Jesus Walk song that kind of opened my mind up a bit. And it started from there.
Yeah. It's amazing. But I mean, we've talked in the past about like, church kids, and they're everywhere in music, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're one of them, I'm one of them. There's lots of bands in the mainstream out there that have come out of church, but it feels like that we've talked about like the F-bomb thing.
Yeah.
It's like if you really want to like make it, you just got every now and again drop the F-bomb in your lyrics, and then it's like, oh yeah, he's we know he's like a Christian in church, but he's cool, like he's like but you've never done that. And I remember you saying, well, that just wouldn't be true to you because it's just not, I don't really talk like that. And I think that's amazing because you're being yourself. But what I've loved about seeing you over the years is, but the content has got grittier though. Like it's got you've got bolder and like talking about all the things that maybe we would talk about off the record.
Yeah.
Church, race, money, royalties, fame, record companies, we talk about this off a podcast. But you're now having the sort of boldness to bring that into your music. I think it's brilliant.
Thanks, man. I think a couple things contribute to that. The first one is I never actually wanted to be a musician or a rapper or make music. So the idea of like making it wasn't something that ever really appealed to me. Obviously, I'd love to be able to provide for my family and live an okay life. But yeah, I've never had this dream to like be some super famous rapper that tours all over the world, sells out arenas. It'd be nice if it happened, but that's not me, and so I haven't felt the need to drop the F-bomb when it's not true to who I am. So that's helped. And the second thing in terms of being bolder is, like, as you know, I've done so many youth events and tried to make music that young people could vibe to and be inspired.
Yeah.
And I realised that I was just writing like really fun, happy songs, which there's nothing wrong with, but they'd jump up and down, and then they wouldn't really listen to me after that. They'd have like a really good youth night, but they're not going home and really connecting with the songs. And so I thought, well, I'm growing, and I'd love the people that like me to grow with me.
Yeah.
So why don't I just talk about what God's doing in my life a bit more? And in my life, I'll have questions about race. I have questions about church life. I have questions about anxious thoughts.
Yeah.
Let me start talking about these things. And if it's not happy enough for the youth groups, that's cool, because there's loads of artists that can do that. But I'm at a different stage of life, you know.
Yeah. And like you know, you're married now. You got a couple of kids.
Yeah.
And that changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
And so you don't stop growing. And I mean, tell me you're married to an amazing woman, Emma.
Yeah, she's great.
How long have you been married? You know, tell us about the kids and stuff.
Oh, mate, I hate when people ask me about dates and stuff, and I've got to try and remember and not get in trouble. We've been together nearly 10 years, married for 7, got a 3.5-year-old called Ezra, a 4-month-old called Hallie. And yeah, Emma's great, man. She's like the big gift from God, and yeah, we love it. We love building a family together. At the moment, what we're finding challenging is, I don't know what you were like, you got quite a few kids, but the second one's, it's just not the same dynamic. So then it's how do you balance all the stuff God might be doing through your work and ministry versus being present at home, and communication is not my strong point as well. So just navigating all that stuff, man. So yeah, man, it's quite tough. That's why we love you guys, because you know what I mean? You've been there, done that, seen it all.
No,
it's always helpful
we
to
haven't
know.
been there, done it. We're right in the middle of it. Communication. I'm fine talking like this with you, but somehow communication in the small details of everyday life seem to elude me at times. And
are you kind of person that's got 100 things running through your mind at once, so it's hard to communicate that all or find the time? Or I'm probably like you, like your brain, like I've got music running through my brain the whole time. And so like I've got to park that at some point, and then I've got to fill in this school form for a French trip. You know? And I need to I've got to copy the passport, send it into the teacher, and then it's like 30 euros spending money, and then my brain is exploding. Mate, I've got all that to look forward to.
But but it's a joy being married, and like, you know, you guys are amazing, and that is a gift though, isn't it, to us? Like, because we've got all the music thing going on, but then we come home to people, and you know, it's what makes it all right, isn't it? Yeah,
it is good, man. Just want to steward it and navigate it well, man.
Yeah.
Because it's quite countercultural, because in the worlds that I'm in, a bit like you, I might be at like a big Christian festival one day, other day I might be playing in a club, and all the other artists that I'm with outside of a Christian context, I hope it's not stereotypical of me to say, but they don't have that same, a lot of them want and need to like also be a family man and be present and that kind of stuff. And so I'm always trying to navigate that. And well, the music's the easy bit, isn't it? Yeah, because that is in our blood, that's our passion. The family bit, you know, especially being a dad, that's the work, isn't it? It is, like, man. I mean, it's a joy, but it's a commitment. It's like work. It's like I've got to put the hours in here if I want to be friends with my kids when they're older. I've actually got to be around and like really like do this well. That's it, mate. And getting on stage seems like the easy bit now. Yeah, you're so right, man. Funny thing, the other day I had a club show in Lincoln, and the promoter was like, I had a look at your rider, and it just screams family, man. He was like, there's no wet alcohol wipes in there. Wet wipes, water. Nappy bags. Yeah. It's rock and roll, isn't it? I've got hundreds of stories on the road of car seats. Anyway, we won't go there now, but I've been listening to your records again over the last few days, you know, in view of talking to you, and amazing again, just seeing the growth, like from when we first spoke
I reckon that was maybe 2017. I remember exactly where I was when we, and we were both encouraging each other, but I was just like, okay, Gov, like, you know, let out what's in there, like, and it feels like these last 3 records have been exactly that. And I was listening again to Everywhere and Nowhere, you know, lyrics like talking about guest tickets, your mortgage. I'm half a rapper, half a worship leader. What am I? And I love it that's all in there, you know, because it's like real stuff. And then on the brand new record, you know, the first song you put out, you know, the Bridgeland Road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty heavy. And I know there's a pretty serious story behind that, which, you know, I'd love you to talk about that, really.
Yeah, sure. So that was inspired by an attack that I faced in my local area. I just come back from the coffee shop trying to get into my car, and there was 3 white guys surrounding it that basically wouldn't let me get in. So I gently brushed past them, and then within the space of 10 seconds, one of them ended up throwing coffee in my face and punching me. And then I called the police. They came. The guys had already made off, and this is broad daylight. In a decent area, you know, quite middle class, and stuff like that just shouldn't happen. And some of the line of questioning from the police just made me feel as though society hasn't maybe progressed as much as we thought it might have. Maybe it has in like there's a lot less blatant racism. So like I can walk down the street and not be called the N-word. Yeah. But just because people have learnt what not to say doesn't mean that it's changed their innermost prejudices. Yeah. And so it's really hard to like grapple with and navigate, and also because the police couldn't find who did it, I didn't get that sense of closure. And that's where music's actually been really helpful. I think at the start of my career, I did it because I just loved music and really enjoyed it. And the last few years, last 3 albums specifically, you know, the one about my dad, Hands Are Made for Working, then Everywhere and Nowhere, talking more about how I feel a bit isolated and don't really know where I'm going. And then this one about the attack, just felt like it's been real like therapy for me in a way, and quite freeing as well as blessing other people. And yeah, it has felt brave. People like you have encouraged me, because I guess I always thought that with Christian music, you've got to like put a bow on everything and just it's got to land in a happy place and a hopeful place, which hopefully it does, because I'm optimistic. I think with Jesus in my life, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel and always something I can hope for. But I do think as Christians, it'll be great for us to get better at like keeping the tissues out a bit longer and just sitting in that uncomfortable space and allowing God to meet us in it. Yeah.
I mean, you're right in Psalms, really, aren't you? Because if you really read the Psalms, they're pretty grim in places. You know, literally, God, where are you? You've forgotten about me.
Yeah.
You've deserted me. Where are you? I thought you were there for me. And so that is not, you know, it goes on to be hopeful, but
yeah,
I suppose that's the great thing still about the album format, isn't it? That the sort of 10-song thing about music where you take people on a journey through 10 songs is that, you know, at the end, you want to shed a bit of light, bring a bit of hope, but that's harder, it's getting harder and harder, isn't it, that in the streaming world now?
Yeah, no, it is, man. I was chatting to someone about this the other day. I'm so excited about the album coming out with the hope that enough people are going to listen front to back. Yeah. But in these days, I don't know if people do. They just pick out the singles that stand out to them or features that they might like. But yeah, I still put it out in the same way. And I think it's important to tell the story, and hopefully, I'm an album person. I love albums, man. I'm not really a singles guy. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully people take it in.
But I people are going to love the new record when it comes out, and you know, the whole record. And the thing that startled me about when you sent, you know, the artwork was, you know, your eye cut, and I mean, I couldn't believe it. But I love it all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what you expect from a record that's coming from the church genre, say.
No, of course.
Go on the front with his eye cut and talking about that incident with those guys. Just ignorance, isn't it? Arrogance, ignorance. And, you know, I was just so sorry about that and so gutted, you know. And you're right, you can't bring closure to it, but when you get on stage, somehow, like,
man.
you can channel like that.
Yeah.
That's the righteous anger, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like, maybe anger is okay.
Yeah, I think as long as you navigate it in a healthy way, then it is. Obviously, if you can't channel it in the right way, it can become quite toxic. But learning that God is still God within this, and He can hold my hand through it, is really important. And I don't know, I think it's important to prepare people for pain, and that life might not go their way all the time. Because when I became a Christian, so yeah, that life's going to be amazing, that God is good, and that is all true. But they kind of left out the detail of it's going to be tough sometimes, you know. And I want my album to tell people that, yeah, it's going to be tough sometimes, but God is still good, and there's hope. Yeah,
and I love it that, you know, your dad passed away, didn't he, a few years back now, and that's all in the music, and even on the new one, you're referencing your dad, because, you know, like, it's not, you don't just get over it, do you? You know, it's just a forever.
Yeah, I think that's the mistake I made, out of having not lost anyone super close to me up until that point. Is I kind of saw grief as like a bit of a mountain I have to climb, and eventually I'll get to the mountaintop and it'll be alright.
Yeah.
But I think it's just always there, man. Sometimes it's a loud voice, sometimes it's a quiet voice, sometimes it's happy thoughts, sometimes it's really tough thoughts. But in a way, I changed my mind. I don't ever want to get over it, man, because I like remembering my dad. I like, you know, his legacy always being there. I like talking to my kids that he's never met about him, and I think it'd be kind of a shame if I got over it and never spared him a thought, you know.
Yeah, and you've written a book, haven't you? A kid's book with Emma.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So that's the first project that we've worked on together, because we get quite annoyed with each other when we're working together, because we've got different working styles. So I'm like a bit of a, you know what I mean, go with the flow. Creativity will come. She's a planner. So I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, what's it called?
It together. It's called Where Grandad Lives, and it's
brilliant.
A way to keep the legacy of a loved one alive, and also help young children through their grief journey in a way that doesn't feel super heavy. Yeah. So yeah, excited about that coming out.
Oh, so good, so good. So you got the new record coming out. When does the actual whole record drop?
So probably by the time people have heard this, maybe it's on May 26th.
Okay.
2023. And thanks to you as well. I don't know how honest you are with your listeners, but Martin runs a publishing company that very kindly partnered with me. And the reason why I mention that actually is because, you know, when you're writing about braver topics, maybe that isn't often spoken about on a Sunday morning, one thing that makes that easier is other Christians coming alongside you and saying, yeah, I think that's a good idea, and encouraging you. Yeah. Because, mate, it'd be a lonely road otherwise. So, it's great to be involved with Glowworks, man.
It's been a dream for me because, you know, because you like you hinted in your music, you sort of live in that middle space, don't you? You're not really a church music guy. You're not really. You're probably not going to be. You know, you're not going to be Chance.
No.
But you're somewhere in the middle. You're English. You've got a heart for both sides, and so that makes you probably a bit awkward, a bit lonely, prophetic, if I can use that word. You're living in a sort of an unusual middle space. Yeah. And so you do need a team around you that kind of have some sort of empathy for that, you know.
100%. So when I feel isolated and lonely. That's obviously quite tough, but I think the other side and the real advantage is that I genuinely feel at home in a lot of places. So at church, I feel at home. In a club, I feel at home. When Stormzy's on the same bill, I feel at home. When Matt Redman, Martin Smith's on the same bill, I feel at home as well. So that's the advantage of it. The other side, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there ever going to be a Stormzy collab, do you reckon?
We're working on it at the moment. I opened up for him at his Christmas concert, and he said some nice words, which I didn't actually know how he felt about, what we do. But he said something along the lines of, I have more respect for you guys because you're where I want to be. You're living the life and you're being really vocal about your faith.
Wow.
And it's interesting because you wouldn't think that they thought of that, so it was good to hear.
Isn't that amazing? Because everyone wants what someone else has got, haven't they?
Exactly.
You always want that thing, and then you realise what's in your own hands sometimes is, wow, and you've been doing this long enough.
Getting on now, mate.
Yeah.
Getting on.
And, people do respect you, and they do look in and go, well, look, he's been around long enough. He's kept the course. He's stayed true to who he is. And that is something to be admired, isn't it? And in the end, people gravitate towards that. So that'd be amazing. I mean, I can't wait for that.
We'll see, man. We'll see what happens. But yeah, no, I'm grateful and thankful to God because, especially with music these days, in the streaming era and the singles era, it's really hard to have like a career that's longer than a couple of years.
Yeah.
So to still be going is great. How long have you been going now for?
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, this is about you. Okay, so like we're probably like, I mean, we could go on and on. I mean, you and I could talk all night.
This is what we do all the time, yeah.
We could talk all night because there's stuff I'd love to talk. Well, maybe do it again about like, the church scene, music, creativity, diversity, or whatever all those things mean. We'll do another one, about exploring that. But because all of our kids are playing in the garden, and we've got some Indian food coming as well, so this is going to be the night of our lives. But anyway, 5 years time, where do you think you'll be, and what in your mind does success look like?
Yeah, for me, the basic definition of success, the way I look at it, is doing the best I can, being the most productive with the tools that God has given me. And if that means I'm doing 100 capacity venues in 5 years' time, then great. If it means I'm doing 20,000, then that's also great. But in terms of vision and what I'd love to see and what I think God might be speaking to me about is similar to the way that with hip-hop you had to have not just Jay-Z by himself, but you had to have Jay-Z, you had to have Nas, you had to have Tupac, you had to have Biggie. With grime you had to have Skepta, you had to have Wiley, JME, Kano. I want there to be Christian artists that are foundationally Christian but are comfortable in the space that isn't fully Sunday service or isn't fully Glastonbury. So you could have a Martin Smith putting out great records, Guvna B putting out great records, Michael Kiwanuka, a Griff, and there to be such a movement of all of us that don't necessarily fit into one of these boxes, but we're still comfortable in all these boxes, collaborating, working together, and showing people that there's nothing wrong with your faith being foundational to your life and just making great art. And I think it's starting to happen, but I would love there to be a lot more connection between all of us and collaboration, because I think something special could come out of it. It's real movement,
Amazing. But I mean, I just think that sky's the limit is for you. I think expect everything. You're on a good label now. You've got the great team behind you. When this new record drops, and like you say, it might have dropped already. I cannot wait to listen to that top to bottom.
Thanks, mate.
In my car. And but yeah, thanks for being on the Martin Smith podcast today. And you're an amazing guy, you're a friend, and we totally believe in you. and it's been really amazing to talk to you today. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. And if anyone doesn't know, Martin Smith is one of the most humble people I know. He hasn't even got any of his plaques up on these walls. If I had as many hits as he did.
And Anna won't let me put any stuff up.
Is
it's all in the garage, isn't it?
You still got more to come, man. Still got more to come.
Guvna B, everyone.
Easy. Does she genuinely not let you put stuff? That's like Emma. I have to put all my stuff in the office.
Yeah.
Just don't want it in the house.
Yeah, I don't want any of that spoiling my... Brilliant.
Nice one, mate. That was a good chat.
Yeah.